Hi, I'm Brad, and I'm doing a new format that I'm really excited about. And with me, to help me do this format, is kind of my first test subject. This is someone who made something really cool, and I think you all will really enjoy this video. Or not, we'll see. So who are you?
I am Anton Bill Månsson. Probably a pretty mouthful to pronounce for any native English-speaking person. But yeah, blame Swedish names.
Fantastic. I mean, look, I love people from the land of the trolls and all that good stuff. I went on the Epcot ride years ago. That was all about like Norway and Sweden and stuff. So I'm pretty sure I know all about your culture already. So what exactly did you make?
Well, so I was pretty broke. I was I was broke, and so I wanted full body tracking because I was a VR chat player, and you know what VR chat player doesn't want full body tracking. So I couldn't afford the Vive trackers, and I mean there was Kinect out, but buying a Kinect in Sweden is well, it's more expensive than you'd think. But so I was starting to think I could make my own, and that's kind of how it all started. In the beginning, it was terrible. It barely worked, but you know it started to get good. I made some cool discoveries that were so I was able to get even more precision and you know whatever. So it kind of continued like that for a while, and then I got some traction, and you know, I got covered by first Mystical, and then it exploded with once uploaded VR like wrote an article about it.
So for those who don't know, he's talking about Stonx VR. These are like the cookies in the developer kit 1 that I have here. Did the system you were using always have cookies originally?
No. So in the absolute beginning, well, actually, the first thing I tried was making April tags or using literal April tags, which is like tracking QR code looking things. And little did I know someone had already created it, but that's besides the point. So I was trying there alone, trying to make it work.
Okay, so this is going to be like kind of a weird question, but like, how old are you?
So I actually just turned 18 last month. Actually, pretty much a month ago. And yeah, I guess that's not very old, you know.
No, I think that's what makes this project really fascinating. I think a lot of people, I'm sure people are watching right now. Like, there's always this stigma that you have to be a certain age before you can make something successful. But what you're already working on, and like you said, you're talking about the traction. People are very interested. That's why I really like the DIY community in general. Is there's so many different backgrounds and ages. We have people from Russia, people from Sweden, people from just all over the world making stuff that they think is cool. They're trying to solve their own problems. And I think it's really cool that you especially are young, because that really kind of is a good inspiration for younger people to be like, hey, I can do something. So obviously you have a background in programming just from probably your schooling, right?
No, I actually started programming when I was, I think, about 5. I guess that's an early age, but considering my parent, like my father is a programmer, and you know, and my mom handled a lot of servers. So
It's a match made in heaven for you. You
right.
are literally the culmination of two nerds.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's beautiful. That's perfect. Let's get into a little bit more about like how Stonx works right now, or at least the DK1.
Yeah.
So this is the what you call the Stonx beacon, correct?
Yep.
And I am wearing the cookies. There's also this one here, one for each foot and one for the hip. So with the DK1, is there anything you want to say about it right now in general?
Yeah. So, first of all, it's not the best. Obviously, it's like 180. It's pretty limited compared to other systems by just being 180. Otherwise, precision is kind of nice, and you know, you could do basic mocap with it. But it is cancelled. Bah.
Okay, let's tear this apart a little bit more. Canceled. Why?
Because why spend time making the DK1, launching it, having support for it, making sure that the software is consumer friendly? Why spend time doing that when I could, just make sure the CV1 launches sooner instead?
Right. I think one of the biggest things I see people talking about Stonx is due to the fact that it's limited 180 in general. I think that it is probably a good idea to just work on the actual consumer version, which will not be 180 degrees, correct?
Yeah, it will be 360.
Okay, cool. On my channel, or really not even just my channel, but in general, I am addicted with archiving prototypes and stuff that just either don't make it a market or led up to something great. So I just want to talk a little bit more about DK1. I mean, I have it here. We might as well talk about it just a little bit before we go into consumer version. But this beacon, what exactly is the beacon and what is it doing?
So simply, the beacon is, if you've ever heard of OptiTrack, which is a ridiculously expensive tracking solution, it's kind of similar to that, which is kind of ironic considering this is a lot cheaper than most options. But yeah, basically what it is you have retro reflectors. In this case, circular cookies in different colors. And it has lights around it, which so it can differentiate the retro reflectors from the background. Get the position in 3D space and push it into your Steam VR, and you have full body tracking. That's like kind of basically how it works.
Okay, so this is giving off just visible light, or is that it?
Yes, that's just visible light. That's all the light there is to it.
So one thing that I found was really interesting, you're telling me before our interview, is you were noticing a huge cultural difference with this system, with visible light. You were noticing there was... Explain that cultural difference you were talking about to me earlier.
I mean, nothing is like, this is not confirmed in any way. There's no research, I think. But so I was thinking to myself, what if, because Bradley had a lot of problems with light sources disturbing it. I have a full lit room, as you can see. But what if here, where I live, we consider something bright to be less bright than what is considered bright in America. So I was like, oh yeah, you can have a fully lit room and it won't have any problems. But yeah, I never thought about like there might be a difference in what do people consider bright.
No, yeah, I think that's a really cool tidbit. I think there's a lot of things in general with hardware that, like, I mean, you are pretty much the only one working on Stonx, like the hardware side, correct?
Not anymore, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. But like up to this point, it was just you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's something I always wanted to like bring up on with the community. There's always this weird stigmas around like what a person that is trying to sell a product can or can't do. This is a DIY project that got big, and he wants to allow people to get into affordable full body tracking. But at the same time, this is one person in Sweden who's 18 years old doing all this himself that cannot have people from across the world in different things to test stuff. So it was only until that he basically was able to send this out to reviewers that he realized, hey, there's some things I need to work on. And I think that's really something important I want to bring up in general, because again, this is a very, like, I mean, it's a great project, but again, you have to keep in mind the scale of the people working behind stuff. That's not even just for this project, it's pretty much for every DIY project in general. So I just wanted to bring that up a little bit. Okay, so we talked about, I mean, I don't really have much to say about DK1. I want to just say it had a lot of cool inspiration, obviously inspired you to come to the next step, which is CV1. So let's get right into CV1. What is like you're clearly alluding to a big announcement. Do you want to just jump right in and explain all that?
Oh yeah, so we can start with the first thing is we're partnering with Mammoth VR, which is like they do gun stocks for VR, and they have some pretty cool manufacturing quality on their stuff, right? And they also have resources. They're a huge knowledge base Um, and you know, just in general, they have a lot of stuff that we or well, Stonx could need. And they have manufacturing capabilities and whatever. So with them, we can like expand and develop something more than just a one-man project. Something better, something more professional.
When you talk about earlier that like you're kind of like abandoning DK1, there's a lot of work that would make DK1 better, and you're transitioning to CV1. Is there going to be a lot of differences in software from CV1 to DK1?
Yes, there will be huge software changes. It will be completely different. Really, they're not really connected in how they work. Kind of. Well, they are, but it's very very different still.
So the only reason I ask it, this is something to think about. I don't want to put you on the spot. But in general, I really like the idea of for things like this, like DK1, that is just not going to release, and you yourself prove that you can make this yourself in your own room. Have you ever thought about like just open sourcing DK1 for anyone that wants to maybe make one themselves, or like just do that for fun while they wait for CV1 to get completely finished and made?
Yeah, I have been thinking about if I could be able to open source it.
I know you have some obligations with your
Yeah.
partnership now, so maybe that's probably the one thing you would have to check up with first.
Yeah,
But
I would. But yeah, I've been like thinking about if you could open source it, what would that mean, and so on. But there is like some big problems with open sourcing it, and it is getting it to work with like your own stuff, having your own retro reflectors, having not everything be this exact thing. You'll have to adjust so much stuff just to get it to work. And that would be kind of the problem with open sourcing it. It would be extremely difficult to get it to work.
right. I get that. Obviously, it's just like I'm not gonna go too much into it, but like if you just threw it out there as like just something people can do, I imagine the community would just do it themselves. Like you wouldn't even have to put any work into it, because that's I'm seeing a lot of that recently. Like I feel like the VR, not only the DIY industry, but like everything open source related to VR is just blowing up right now, because a lot of people are getting into VR with Quest 2, and a lot of talented programmers are seeing all these open source projects, and they're just making everything much better. So we talked about how this has visible light for tracking. Is CV1 going to have visible light?
No, CV1 will have infrared. What kind of like wavelength of infrared, we're not sure yet. We're gonna have to like experiment. There's always the factor with like what tracking systems does it interfere with. So we're gonna have to like test it and just basically see what works best. But like it's gonna be infrared. Which is pretty cool because I mean it looks a lot cooler. Yeah, just like that. That is pretty infrared.
Yeah, so this is a Lighthouse base station prototype, and a lot of this is infrared, so that's why I hold it up for you guys to see. No, I think that's a great idea. Like we were just saying, like the visible light relies on dimness and stuff, where IR, obviously, like you said, you have to figure out the frequency and everything, but IR is a lot less have that issue probably than visible light. Okay, let's talk about. I mean, infrared. That's a huge jump in general. I don't really see many consumer-friendly infrared. I mean, this is kind of like an infrared base station in a way. So, what advantages will this new system have over the DK1?
A lot. I would not actually compare it with DK1. I would rather compare it. It would be a lot easier to compare it with like Vive, because it will have that sub-millimeter tracking, which has already been tested with DK1 beacons actually.
I mean, there's a huge amount of value for that. I mean, I personally, I'm very biased. Obviously, I use Lighthouse. I have 4 lighthouses in this room, for example, which is an obscene amount for a small area like this. But I do like having markers in a way that are giving off a sort of beam for things to track. But what's really cool about your system, and I imagine CV1 will be the same, is your trackers don't require batteries, correct?
For DK1, yes, but CV1
Oh,
will have active trackers. Yeah.
okay.
But so we're trying to extend the battery life like kind of like having a ridiculous long battery life. So you won't have to worry about it. So currently, we're up in about 50 hours of battery life.
That is a lot of battery life.
Yeah. I mean, so we obviously want to keep this thing where, you don't have to worry about batteries, just like the DK1. That's something we want to keep.
So let's talk about something that I think people just will always bring up and care about. So it's important to just jump right into this. When do you plan to have this system at least able to be ordered, or like what the price will be? The logistical side of it.
All right. So as for when you can order, we'll want to, get like a kind of working Frankenstein prototype first. And once we're comfortable and got that like working well, we'll start, crowdfunding. And then for price, we're still working on kind of like predicting the price to announce one. So right now, well, I would gladly tell you what we're estimating the price to be right now. The Mammoth guys, and we want to be able to be a lot more sure about it before we actually tell you the price. All I can say is it will be a lot cheaper than Vive, and that's kind of what I'm allowed to say.
CV1 Beacons, are they going to need to be plugged into a computer? Since it sounds like your active trackers, you might not need that anymore.
Yeah, no, they're not going to be plugged into the computer. So
Okay.
you'll still obviously have to plug in power to them, but they won't have to be plugged into the computer. They will connect wirelessly through a dongle. Hopefully not needing as many dongles as Vive needs, because that would be a lot of USB ports.
So you're saying the trackers will be connected by the dongle, correct?
Yeah, and the beacons, because unlike Vive, it's not like a marker-based tracking system. You need the camera data. And so the processing will happen on board the cameras now, which means your computer will have a lot more headroom when running Stonx because you're not doing the computations on the computer.
So I think in a way we can literally, like, for people that are watching that know a lot about Lighthouse base stations, it sounds like this new system is very similar, sort of like a mix between the old CV1 and the Lighthouse base stations. You still have to plug in the wall. You have clearly wireless dongles to connect everything to your computer, but no moving parts. So it's sort of like, this is a weird word to say, but like solid state, so things will last longer. That's cool. I think there's a lot of value in that, and that's awesome. Is there anything else you want to add about CV1 in general before we start wrapping things up?
Yeah, so right now we will not show the tracker design itself. We're still working on it to make sure it's good. And we're not really ready to announce show the tracker design yet. I'd expect it to be ready pretty soon. We're working pretty fast, especially since there's a lot more people now that can work on it.
Before I let you plug where to follow you, I want to remind everyone this is mostly for PCVR, only PCVR, so it'll probably require Steam VR. This is not for any standalone stuff.
And that conveniently brings us to the next point.
Go for it.
So we'll be working with SideQuest, the people at SideQuest, to bring full body tracking to standalone. Finally.
Okay, that completely made my whole last point mute. But that's amazing. That's wow. I would have never imagined something like that. That's a really cool concept.
Yeah, we're hoping it will be. So we're hoping that will really change, the way we can play standalone. Obviously, I'm still hoping for there to be another standalone headset than just Quest, but that's where it is at the moment. And so since Facebook is pretty protective of its software, we still have SideQuest, and SideQuest can implement SDKs or APIs or whatever you're supposed to call it. And games on SideQuest can implement whatever they implement in their SDK, and something like full body tracking could be implemented in that SDK. And what's so special with the C1? Why is that possible to connect it to the Quest? Well, now that all the computing happens on the beacons and, on the dongle, um, there's there's no computing needing to be made on the Quest. You can just send it wirelessly to the Quest directly.
That's my brain. It's still flustered from hearing this. Honestly, I was not expecting that. That's a crazy announcement. It's one of those things where, like, I mean, full body tracking is getting more accessible with all these projects like yours coming out and making it cheaper. There's no doubt a huge value in full body tracking, and more people are seeing the value more and more. VR chat has like the highest retention rate of any VR experience. People are coming back, and I think a lot of these reasons is players are investing in stuff like full body tracking because I think hardware solves a lot of the software problems, and when you have that extreme immersion, you want to spend more time in these things. But yeah, imagining full body tracking support for a standalone headset, even through side quests, that's mind blowing. That's an awesome announcement. I'm glad you brought that up. Holy frick. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm excited now. I'm like really excited. I can only imagine when the time comes, I'll be able to test this stuff out. That's really cool. Where can people follow your project or like really talk with you in general?
So, I mean, we obviously had the website StonxVR.com, but it's it's mostly front page where you can see that we exist. But if you really want frequent updates, you can communicate with me and the guys from Mammoth. You can join the Stonx Discord server, where you'll have all the frequent updates. We have a role for even more frequent updates, and yeah, just generally cool stuff.
No, yeah, I'm a part of that Discord. I frequent it a lot. It's a great community they have there, very open community. One last question, and then we'll end it. When can I buy the Stonx programmer socks?
I mean, hopefully soon. I need to. I mean, the Mammoth guys are really great dudes. They'll definitely let me do that.
As soon as they're for sale, I'm buying at least like 10 of them. I swear.
That's good.
No, thank you so much for doing this. I really hope that people are excited hearing all this news. I think it's very good. I was honestly so to be real, I was very nervous about Stonx DK1 because we were talking about earlier. You are only one person. You were only able to test it out with you, and due to this, you only have a Quest, and you were designing or a Rift. I'm sorry, you were designing Stonx with that in mind. You were designing it with SteamVR, but SteamVR used Oculus runtime to do all the weird play space stuff. But yeah, there was some incompatibilities because you just don't have Lighthouse. But like, it's really a testament though that you don't have Lighthouse, but now you're basically making your own Lighthouse to solve the problems of not having Lighthouse. It's crazy. I think it's just really just like, I've been saying this word a lot, but it's just a testament to how cool projects like yours are and how much value people like you add to the community. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you so much for all the amazing compliments.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. This has been a fantastic interview with the creator of Stonx VR. Again, I have these. These are like a rare resource now. You will never see them. I am powerful. All right, bye everyone.